Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, everybody. We're going to wait 1 or 2 minutes for some of the stragglers, but then we are going to get started. Thank you all for coming.
So, my friends, we're here with getting the papers together. So if you hear all sorts of folding, we're doing this in my living room. We have tomorrow's paper today. And I want to make sure to be a part of it, even though the timing's a little awkward. I really appreciate the fact that we get a chance to talk.
Excellent, excellent. And I appreciate you coming. We really know that a lot of you guys are hustling to get the papers out or to get the editions closed. So we really appreciate you coming. Okay, let's get started. Welcome. Thanks for joining us, even while you're folding papers. I really appreciate that. For the Open Government Champion Awards, my name is Axel Eberman. I serve as the Public Relations Chair of the New York Coalition for Open Government. We are a nonpartisan, nonprofit, all-volunteer organization that promotes open, transparent government in New York State. We do this through education. We have education sessions. We put white papers out. Legislation, we write legislation. We go to Albany and knock on doors of the legislators. And once in a while, when the transgressions are too egregious, we might even file a lawsuit just to put a stake in the ground. Why are we doing this particular award? July 4th is coming up and reminds us of the freedoms that we have in this country. We have freedom of speech. We take this for granted, but you don't have this everywhere in the world. And part of a functioning democracy is the press, and also specifically local press. We need them to hold government accountable. We need them for civic engagement, to have an educated citizenry. And you are called the Fourth Estate for a reason. And on top of that, the press is our natural ally on all things of freedom of information and open meeting laws. Nobody most probably files more FOIL requests than the press. They know it very well. Some of your organizations also file Article 78 lawsuits to hold the government accountable. So this is important. Now, without further ado, because I know all of you are very busy, let's get started. We picked 8 organizations that we want to recognize today, which we think have done an absolutely outstanding job over the last year to report on open meeting laws and government transparency. And we also are going to recognize one student organization and one high school organization. The first one, and this is in no particular order, because we don't want to play favors. I'm going to call the organizations because some of the editors and reporters wasn't quite clear who could make it and which one of you could make it. So please excuse me if I don't know exactly who's here. So we're going to start with the Ultimate Enterprise. The Ultimate Enterprise is in Albany County. It's a weekly newspaper, and they did articles, among others, government transparency on advocates' boost for fall strengthening bills. That was part of our legislative efforts. And they also published an op-ed by our very own Ken Guarino. And thank you very much. Extremely well done. We are happy that you do this. It's not always the flashiest thing to publish, but it is important, right? And this is, they sent a quick note because Noah Zweifel, the editor, had a deadline coming up, which you're most all familiar with. He said, the Ultimate Enterprise is honored to be recognized for its coverage of government transparency and its attempts to educate readers on the laws that are in place to keep them informed, hold public officials accountable to those laws, and expose the many gaps in the state's enforcement. You can say that out loud. This coverage is inspired heavily by the work of the coalition, which has shown time and time again that this issue is not particular to one area, but spread across the state and through all levels of government. Thank you very much, Noah, and keep up the good work. as we all know, there is a lack of enforcement mechanism. We're all suffering from that. So he is 100% right with that. Let's go to the next one. We have the Post Journal. The Post Journal is a daily newspaper serving the area around Jamestown, New York. And I had to Google how to pronounce it yesterday. I'm most probably going to butcher it anywhere. That is Chautauqua County. And the article specifically, among others, is Hochul hit for no open government mention. That the government in the State of the State address didn't even mention it, although she promoted government transparency or pretended to do it when she was voted into office. State fails to show urgency with transparency. They have done a lot of coverage about that, and I think Matthew Stafford, is that who is? I think we have somebody from the Post Journal with us today. Can you unmute yourself and say hello and say a few words if you're here?
Yeah. Yes, I'm here. How are you doing?
Hey, Matt. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, I would put the phone on. I would put the video on right now, but my cat is attacking the iPad, so I think I'm just going to go audio right here. Yes, I thank you very much for the I thank the organization very much for the award. The open meetings law, it means a lot, but as was said, as was hinted at by the earlier guy who kind of wrote in, there is no enforcement mechanism. I think that kind of stinks. I think that, these government officials would be a lot more accountable if they could be a little bit afraid of some prison time. But at this point, I guess that's just wishful thinking. We're happy for what we have now. The open meetings law is, imperfect, but better than nothing. It makes people, think, I suppose, that they have to, say things in public. And as far as Albany goes, I reserve comment on them. I don't want to get myself in any trouble with any bad language. They're something else, but they I guess all we can do is just keep fighting and keep telling people, look, this is your government, this is what they're doing. We're here to keep them accountable, as was said earlier. And I guess that's really about it, Axel.
Excellent. Thank you for coming. Thanks for your excellent work. Keep up the good work. We know local press is working very hard. It's a tough job. I started my career. I was in a local radio newsroom. That's what I did for a living, and I did breaking news. So I'm very familiar with the process. Let's move on to the Riverhead Local. They are out of Riverhead, New York, in Suffolk County. And they did articles on Sunshine Week, which is 1 week in March promoting government transparency. And also what I found particularly neat is that they had an article when the town supervisor was voted into office to give him a government transparency to-do list. And I thought it was a really terrific idea. Is somebody with us from the Riverhead Local today?
We are. Hi.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good, thank you. I'm the editor and publisher of Riverhead Local, and this is Alec Lewis, our I call him our foil master. Thank you very much for this award. It means a lot. We utilize the tools provided, such as they are by the state laws, and we use them to some effect. We have gotten information out of town hall and out of the school district that some people clearly did not want to disclose through use of freedom of information law requests and appeals, and came very close to pulling the trigger on a lawsuit on one of them, and but did not. And it's just, I feel like it's a really important tool to use, and our reporting has been with involving these issues has been surprisingly well received by the public, if not the officials that we are writing about. You know, we're gonna keep on doing it. That's the only way to get information out that they don't want to let out, you know. So, and it's oftentimes the most important and impactful information in terms of fiscal consequences to the taxpayers and quality of life issues. So we're a digital only publication that I founded with my husband. It's going on be 15 years old in January. So
that is excellent. Well, thank you so much for your outstanding work, right? We have publications of different sizes, and I find it absolutely amazing what some of you guys are doing. As we saw earlier, somebody is literally here folding physical newspapers, right? It takes a lot to do that. So thank you for your terrific reporting and your good work. Next, we have the Palladium Times, Oswego County News Now. That's in Oswego. We have a lot of members up there. That was Open Government Group, that would be us, criticizes Hochul's record on transparency. And Open Government Group cites lack of accountability in state agencies in their fall requests. And I think I have seen Ken Sturtz somewhere on the Zoom list. Ken, you are here, correct? If yes, could you unmute yourself and say hello? There you are.
I'm here.
How are you doing?
You would think with all the Zooms during the pandemic, I'd finally remember to unmute. Yeah, our editor Charlie Ellis is here. Go
hello.
ahead.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Thank you for your terrific work and welcome.
Yeah. Well, we're very appreciative of this award, and I'm very appreciative of our staff who've been working very hard all year on all kinds of things, including issues of government transparency. Ken is our FOIL master. He's put out, I don't know, 3,000 requests. I don't know how many. It just seems like he's always doing them for one thing or another. But you know, our biggest issue has been with the town of New Haven, with characters out there, and people from your organization have been persistent and to the point of getting themselves arrested for supposedly disrupting meetings involving a town supervisor with a long rap sheet before he got into politics, and he has a long rap sheet and a short temper and a thin skin. So we've had to deal with him a lot, and it's not been very pleasant. But recently, Ken was in a court covering I don't know, arraignment or whatever it was, and before they were actually having the thing, the lawyers were talking, and then Ken was just sitting there and taking notes, and the lawyer asked the judge to prevent us from publishing anything that they were saying privately before the hearing had started, and which is, you know, clearly unconstitutional, of prior restraint. And the judge said, okay, yeah, you can't publish it. So if they'd been saying anything important, we would have pushed it harder, but we did report that they had told us not to report it, and we didn't. And Ken did. You can correct me. Ken has not written anything about what they were talking about. So we're technically in compliance with this unconstitutional order, but it just shows that, you know, people just don't really understand the rules of the Constitution and open government and everything else. And, you know, the news media needs to be ever vigilant to keep them on their toes and keep them respecting our rights.
Thank you. And you do it well, especially the ones that we have here today. What I also think is incredible, what you guys sometimes do so well, freedom of information, open meeting laws can sometimes be a little bit dry, but you all manage to wrap it into really compelling stories, also to show the public why this issue matters. So we really appreciate that. Thank you for the great work. Next up is the Mountain Eagle News. What a fantastic name, right? They are covering Otsego, Delaware, Greene, and Ulster. And they did some great reporting about public comments being eliminated by the Fulton Town Supervisor, which was a pretty egregious case. Is somebody with us from the Mountain Eagle News today?
Good morning. I appreciate everyone's time.
Oh, there
today.
you are. Yes.
And I appreciate everyone's patience as we get through. This is our crunch time as we get the papers out for tomorrow's edition. We have to manually refold them so we can put new fronts on them depending on where they're going. But to make a much longer story short, I'm very proud of our reporters. Lilu, who wrote the article, couldn't be with me this morning as we're getting the papers prepped. And I also wanted to say that it's a privilege to be with so many people that believe in open government and the power of the press. So as much as I'd like to take the word on behalf of the paper, I wanted to first give thanks, and second, also send my appreciation for so many good colleagues here on the call with us.
Thank you. Thank you for the terrific work. We really appreciate it. And thank you for taking the time to show up. As we can see, you are very busy. Hands-on. If this is not hands-on, I don't know what is. We are moving on to the Lockport Union Sun and Journal. It's a daily newspaper published in Lockport, New York, and covering municipalities in eastern Niagara County. For the great open government reporting done by the paper, in particular by reporter Benjamin Joe, who wrote articles about the mayor issuing a media gag order. I remember that. And another about 15 minutes notice being provided for a town board meeting. I just want to see, is somebody from the Lockport Union Sun and Journal with us? Calling once, calling twice. They're most probably busy. Excellent, stellar job.
Oh, you're here. Sorry.
Oh, there you are. Okay. Thank you, Joyce.
My apologies. Ben Joe, the great Ben Joe, is
there.
with
You
me.
are wonderful.
Say hi.
Hi, folks.
I want to say that I appreciate the recognition from the coalition for being a freedom fighter for information and such. It took me by surprise because I've been doing this a while and I feel like we're just doing our job. So to me, knowing open meetings law and, making sure that our public representatives know the law as well, know that we know it, using FOIL requests to get information that they don't want disclosed, it just seems so routine and normal to me. It was kind of startling to be told, hey, you're getting an award for this. We're just doing our jobs. But as I listen to others here and the crazy stories that they're, prior restraint and, I'm reminded that I guess what we do is kind of extraordinary, all of us. So I appreciate that recognition. And I think one of the best things that newspapers can do is make sure that their reporters, their contributors, everyone knows and understands open government, open meetings law, the spirit of open government, and sets their mind to making sure that it happens. It's why we do what we do.
Excellent. And you're doing a fantastic job. And I really appreciate it. Local news is so important. I cannot press this enough because especially people who do it on an ongoing basis, nobody sheds more light on local government than you guys do. And it is important because otherwise a lot of accountability gets lost. So thank you for your great work. Next is the Adirondack Daily Enterprise. They cover the Saranac Lake area, Franklin, Essex County. And they have done some great reporting, including an editorial titled Hochul's Budget Fails to Address Transparency. Another one regarding our Sunshine Week efforts when we went to Albany and knocked on doors to make lawmakers pay attention to the dire state of freedom of information, open meeting laws. Is somebody here from the Adirondack Daily Enterprise? If yes, please unmute yourself. All right. I think nobody may be here. If I'm missing you and you're fumbling with your mute button, feel free to come back. Next up, we have Westmore News. They are in my neck of the woods. I'm in Westchester County. They have done really good coverage about the town restricting the ability of appointed committee members to speak regarding their committee service, which is ridiculous. The editor, Janan Abel, they are right on a deadline. They're also most probably folding newspaper somewhere. She sent us a note, which I'm going to read. The Westmore News, which covers the village of Portchester and Rybrook in Westchester County, was founded almost 60 years ago by my father-in-law as a community watchdog. We continue to see that as one of our main roles, and as such, the freedom of information, open meetings law is crucial to our mission. We used to rely on the Committee on Open Government to advise us and give us opinions to use in stories and editorials, and even had former director Bob Freeman come to our community for a workshop for local officials and other residents on the freedom of information, open meetings law, which proved to be a well-attended event and produced a lively discussion. Now we rely on the New York Coalition for Open Government to play that role, and in the past few years have consulted President Paul Wolf on several open government matters that riled us. One related to the Portchester Board of Trustees appointing a study committee on the village's new zoning code, and in doing so restraining the members from appearing at any public meeting and providing public comments or criticizing the board. Mr. Wolf said the language was unusual. The board seemed paranoid and provided some good quotes to use in my story. My assistant editor and I are on top of our elected bodies to make sure they follow the rules of open government. So is our publisher, who has been known to ask the Portchester Board of Trustees why they are going into executive sessions if it is not on the agenda or announced. The latest tactic, however, is to adjourn a meeting and go into a closed session to consult with the attorney and corporation counsel without giving a reason. Boy, do we know abuse of executive sessions. It's one of the biggest loopholes. It's not even a loophole. It's just blatantly being abused. That's what it is. That concludes our newspapers, and I'm handing it over to our Vice President, Michelle Allen, for our student and high school honorees. Michelle.
Yeah, so thanks everybody for joining us. As Axel said, the press is such a partner for us, and we appreciate everything that the local press specifically does, because we understand that we need that news in our community and we need to support our local newsrooms. And even more than that, we need to help educate our young leaders. So I feel like I have the honor and privilege to introduce a couple outstanding young students. The first one is Adelaide Barlow. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. And I will let her speak more about how she's done, but she wrote an amazing article, Student Voice. Adults must stop censoring student newspapers. New York has a bill that would stop this dangerous practice. And I'm just going to let her kind of explain that because I don't want to muddle it. And it was an amazing article. And go ahead, Adelaide.
Hi, everyone. So basically, right now across the country, student journalists do not have the same rights as their peers with First Amendment rights. So my op-ed really detailed the support of the Student Journalist Free Speech Act, which I'm actually an advocate for with New Voices New York and the Student Press Law Center. So I talked to many different students in my area, especially about how they have been censored at their publications. So, for example, the principals and administration at Polaris Press, which I detailed in my op-ed, they took a lot of prior review of the publication. So that really delayed their publishing time, which made a lot of their content not newsworthy. So that's just one example of prior review and censorship that I detailed in my op-ed. Right now, 18 states actually have passed the Student Journalist Free Speech Act, and New York is not one of those states. So I'm personally an advocate for the Student Journalist Free Speech Act in New York State this year. And basically what that act would do is restore what's called the Tinker Standard, which basically outlines that students do not shed their First Amendment rights at school doors. And that was originally with Mary Beth Tinker and the incident where her and some of her family wore a black armbands to school in protest of the Vietnam War. So yeah, that's kind of, I just really want to be an advocate for student voices in journalism. And I'm just really passionate that I got to share other student voices in my area from other publications, smaller publications that have not been able to express their own views or tell other people about the censorship that's going on at their schools.
It's amazing. And I believe your teacher is here who posted the link. And, just a real quick little highlight to the teachers who educate and lead our young leaders, because she's obviously a young leader, and we love that, to find what they're passionate about. And that's, we are a small group of people who are very passionate about transparency and open government, and we are always looking for new partners and colleagues that we can help highlight this. I want to circle back. I believe we do have the editor or someone from the Alma Enterprises here. Is that correct? That maybe we can have her speak as well?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that earlier. Yeah.
No, that's okay. Noah was the reporter who's done a lot with your coalition, so I had put his name forward. He's a modest man, so he sent in a statement. But our paper, too, went back to the days when Bob Freeman ran the Committee on Open Government, and we relied on him constantly throughout the years. And now, similar to the other publication that spoke, have shifted to your coalition as kind of a go-to. We've done a lot, Noah particularly, looking at issues about accessibility, and I myself, within this past year, did a lot with our local library that had an incident, or actually a cafe closed accusing of racism, and I used FOIL to get records, and as far as I could tell, couldn't find racism from police records, from correspondence at the library back and forth. It's just constant in all areas of our public life to try to find the truth and see what really happened.
Great. Again, thank you. I have one more student that I'm going to recognize. He was hoping to make it, but he was taking his final till 11 a.m. So he may still end up joining us. But this is Holden Velasco. He has been the editor-in-chief of the Night News at Queens College for 5 semesters. He took over when the paper was in crisis, not publishing at all. He assembled and trained a set of teams, reporters, senior reporters, multimedia journalists, and social media managers. As a contributor, Holden published numerous major stories, most of them local, about the college. For example, published an editorial on problems with student life that prompted the college to restructure the program. Sorry, I lost my restructure the program, and another on administration's mishandling of Islamophobia on campus. As an editor, he shepherded many more important stories. How CUNY is funded, a false alarm bomb threat on campus, an explanation of how CUNY's Board of Trustees works. Holden returned the paper to print after 4 years of digital publication only. He took it from monthly to bi-weekly, and again, there's a lot. He apparently his father was an editor too, so it runs in his family, and he was really hoping to be here, but had to take a final. I'll kick it back over to Axel.
Thank you, Michelle. Again, congratulations to everybody. Keep up the great work. We are proud of you. We really appreciate your partnership. I will email out certificates of the award to everybody to you. If you want the hard copy, you have my email address. Just let me know and we're going to send it over. We'll most probably mail them out anyway. Just generally, you all have done it. Feel free to reach out to us if you have questions. Paul Wolf, who's traveling today, that's why he couldn't be here, is always happy to answer questions or give advice or give interviews, give quotes. We're also building our website out. We have a Q&A section now where we anonymize questions that come in, but basically building up an archive so people can just look up the most salient things and latest and greatest in FOIL and open meeting law. We provide training. So if the news organizations most probably need it less because you guys are already all pros at that. But if you, for example, want to have your local government or some civic action group get training in freedom of information, open meeting laws, how to file a FOIL request, let us know. We're happy to provide it if we can in person, otherwise via Zoom. We've done that many times before. And we will also keep pushing our legislative efforts. And again, thank you all for your terrific work. You're absolute champions. 4th of July is coming up. And we have to recognize what you are doing and what you're doing for the freedom in this country and for our democracy. And thank you for showing up. Yes.
I would like to let Ben Joe just show everyone something and
please
explain the backstory about how he schooled the Lockport city attorney on executive session rules.
I think all reporters know how difficult it is sometimes when you're in a board meeting and they say, oh, we're going to executive session for, let's say, personnel or litigation. Paul Wolf actually gave me all the open meeting law for executive session. And one day I was in a board meeting and I had a piece of paper and the corporation counsel just said, oh, well, we're going into litigation. I said, hey, wait a minute. I got all these, there's more to it than that. By the next 2 meetings, he was referring to me, asking me for the piece of paper to go and go into executive session the correct way. And the the city clerk actually made this up, a little cheat sheet for all the aldermen. I don't know.
That is fantastic.
So that they could go into executive session correctly as well. And since then, I've gotten more information about open meeting law, and we are slowly and certainly getting the city of Lockport, at the very least, the city of Lockport to obey open meeting law when it comes to executive session.
Well done.
That's fantastic.
And fantastic. Also it shows that we sometimes have bad actors in government, but we also, especially in smaller municipalities, we sometimes have government officials, some may do it part-time, who simply don't know, right? And that is where exactly these kind of education sessions come in, right? You provide them, we provide them, and hopefully we can get them to comply with the laws more and be a more open, transparent government. Again, wonderful. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I wish you a wonderful summer day and keep up the good work. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.